some tough acts to follow here. In the spirit, as this is, we're inducting Mike McCready, kind of in the spirit of Mike McCready, I promise to be brief and see if I can throw in some dry humor. We'll see. Well, for some people that didn't know Mike, just a little bit about Mike's credentials. He was a 15-time national champion, winning 7 national titles, AAU and Greco-Roman, 7 in freestyle, and 1 in college. Was a 2-time national, two-sport All-American at the University of Northern Iowa, and probably one of the greatest heavyweights we've ever had in the United States. He went on to do some coaching out of Lock Haven University, Division I University in Pennsylvania, and then ended coming back to the state of Iowa and coming to Upper Iowa, and kind of over the years got Upper Iowa up and running some many national champions, many All-Americans, and a big part of, towards the end of his career, a big part of where Upper Iowa's at now, and like a lot of his recruits were part of that second in the country national finish back in, I think it was 2000, 2001. So, but I'd like to start by congratulating Mr. Alger, Mr. Black, and Mr. Steenlich on being inducted into the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'm honored to be the presenter as Mike McCready is inducted into the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame and witness his name being added to this most distinguished group. One time when we were traveling, we used to do camps in the summer for Jay Robson, and we would travel all over the country, and we're driving 36 hours out to California, and you talk about many different things on those trips. And I was trying to convince Mike that what a great honor to be inducted in a certain Hall of Fame, and he disagreed and didn't think the selection process was quite up to par, but he did make the statement of there is one Hall of Fame, and this is a true story, there's one Hall of Fame that he can be inducted in that it would be special to him and prestigious to be with such a quality group of people. It was this Hall of Fame here, the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame, or Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame in Cresco, Iowa. And that's the truth. So this means a lot to Mike, even though he's not here, but this is a big deal for Mike to be able to be included in this group of people. Mike was so much to so many people. First and foremost, he was a Christian, a husband, a father, and a fierce competitor. And then he was a coach, mentor, friend in college. Mike was hardworking, humble, selfless, and a man of integrity. These are just a few of Mike's many great qualities he personified. As I was thinking about what I would say about Mike and presenting him to this fine group, what I thought, instead of a bunch of inspirational words of praise and quotes, I thought I'd call some people that, I knew Mike for 10 years, but he was involved in wrestling for over 30 years, and he touched a lot of people in those 30 years. So I made some phone calls, and one man I called was Don Parker, and Don Parker was a grad assistant at UNI when Mike was just a freshman. And listen to Don talk about Mike is you hear some things you don't usually hear about Mike. Talked about him being wet behind the ears, and just a little freshman that didn't know much. And but one thing he did say complimentary was he was most impressed with Mike's athletic ability. As some of you may know, Mike was a 3-sport athlete, earning All-American and national championship honors in 2 different sports. And I read on, I was unaware of this myself, but I read on his plaque down at the town hall this afternoon that he's still the only athlete in the history of UNI to do that, to achieve that honor. So, Jim Miller, I spoke with Jim Miller, and regrettably, he's unable to be here tonight. However, his connection to Mike when Mike was a senior and Jim was a freshman was very powerful. Jim witnessed Mike winning his national title, and at the time, they had the common bond of neither one of them being state champions coming out of high school. So when Jim Miller witnessed Mike winning that national title, that was very powerful for him, and Mike set the bar for Jim. Jim, at that point, felt that Mike could do it, then he could do it, and of course, we all know that Jim went on to be a great success himself as an athlete and a coach. He said that, Jim said that Mike's work ethic and his humility made the greatest impact on him. John Peterson, who rode down here with me today, was a teammate of Mike's and wrestled for Mike when they were involved in Athletes in Action. Tells a story about how Mike taught him a single leg and made him a better wrestler and helped him achieve his dream of being an Olympic champion. John said that as everyone who knew Mike knew him as a man of few words, however, Mike preached a better sermon with his actions and his life than with his words. I talked to numerous coaches Mike competed against as the head coach at Upper Iowa University. Some of the comments that were made about Mike was, when you drew one of Mike's athletes, you knew they were going to compete. Mike always had his athletes prepared to compete. They fought hard. One coach stated that nothing was more important to Mike as the fair play of the game. Another coach said that Mike was a throwback. What you saw was what you got, and his word was his bond. He didn't say much, however, when he spoke, people listened. I personally knew Mike for 10 years as a coach. I wrestled for Mike at Upper Iowa, and then as a mentor, I stayed on with Mike's assistant coach for another 4 or 5 years after that. And without question, there's no person who's made a greater impact in my life than Mike McCready. From Mike, I learned that there was a difference between right and wrong, and that difference was black and white, no gray. I learned that there was good in everyone, and sometimes you have to look hard at finding it. And I think this was one of Mike's greatest gifts. Some of the athletes that Mike had at Upper Iowa wouldn't have been a lot of college coaches' first choice. I was probably one of them. Mike saw something in me, and I'm a much better coach than I ever was a collegiate wrestler. And I believe Mike saw that and gave me that opportunity to stay on and coach. But I learned the value of personal pride of a job well done. When we hosted, Upper Iowa hosted, basically when Mike hosted Division III National Tournament in Waterloo in 1998, I stood by and watched Mike make every single ticket for Young Arena. Personally printed them out, laminated them, put the seat number on there. Every single ticket he printed them out meticulously. Over, I think, 3,500 tickets. He printed out on his little printer in his office. So it took him forever. But in closing, I'd like to leave you with this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson on success. I think it personifies Mike to a point outside of the first statement, but it talks about success. It says to laugh often and much. You have to really know Mike to know that he did have a great sense of humor, and if you did know him, you know that he did laugh often and much. To win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. To earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends. To appreciate beauty and find the best in others. To leave the world a better place, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know that even one life is breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. And I know Mike touched so many different lives. I saw the work he did, for 10 years with the athletes at Upper Iowa. And there's some young men out there that nobody else would have gave a chance to, and their lives are so different because they knew Mike. So I believe Mike was a great success. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you now Mike's wonderful and beautiful wife, Julie McCready, to accept this award on behalf of
Well, I'd like to introduce my son that is with me here tonight, Dan. He's our middle son. He goes to Wartburg College right now and wrestled a couple of years there, and he'll be going to Upper Iowa next year. Our youngest son, Ben, is also going to transfer to Upper Iowa next year. Both the boys had over 100 wins in high school. Did really well in their wrestling careers, and Ben actually qualified as a wild card for the Nationals this year as a freshman at Loras College in Dubuque, so that was a good achievement for him. We also have a daughter who's 23, and she will be getting married this summer in June, and she actually wrestled in high school and is our high school's only varsity female wrestler to earn a varsity varsity letter. So that's a real achievement for her because she actually grew up in this sport and loved it just as much as the boys did, and actually got a chance to do that in high school and was really excited about being a 119 pounder as a senior. And we're just really proud of our kids, and they've done a good job, and we're excited about them. I told Sam he wasn't supposed to make me cry, but I listened to all you guys, and I just remember going to things with Mike and seeing a lot of your faces, and I don't remember your names all the time, but I do remember your faces. And I just want to thank the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame Committee for granting Mike this great honor. Mike was blessed with a successful wrestling career, both as a coach and a competitor, but he was also a very soft-spoken man. Many people, unless they were wrestling buffs, didn't know Mike's extensive wrestling record as a competitor. His 15 national championships are something to be proud of, but unless you ask him about it, he generally kept it to himself. That's just the way he was, and most of you that know him knew that. He just didn't talk about it. To him, it didn't matter how many championships he won, and of course, he always worked to improve himself. But toward the end of his wrestling career, he became more concerned with shaping young men into great wrestlers and great people. He was always watchful to set a good example for wrestlers and his family. His keys to success were hard work, perseverance, and never backing down. And in his short time with us, he worked to instill those traits in us and our family, and we're really proud of that. He believed that each and every wrestler had something to give to the program, and he worked hard to make sure each one knew that. I'm very proud of the legacy that he left our children, who have each stepped onto the wrestling mat. Wrestling is a great sport that carries over into all the other areas of your life. The discipline that controls you on the mat and in the practice room also teaches you to work hard in your academics and your career. I believe Mike enjoyed coaching even more than wrestling because he got to impact his wrestlers in a positive way. And I know he would humbly accept this award, and I'm proud to accept it on his behalf, and just thank you very much for this honor.